Hey everyone, this is Tom Anderson, Tom Lucient Online, and today I'm going to take people through how to build an Arch or application on the Fias platform. Okay, so to get started, let's start with how we get into the Arch Builder. So when you very first come onto Fias, this is the front screen that you see. If you're anywhere else in Fias, you can always push the top left button, and then you'll see the Arch Builder over here in the suggested arches area. Then you just click on it, and then you come over and you can start building in the Arch Builder. You can also search in the Arch store. So you type in Arch Builder. Some of this I'll just show just because it kind of shows features of Fias in general. And then the other thing that's neat is, once you've built your Arch, it'll show up in the Arch store here as well. But the Arch Builder itself is an Arch. And same thing, you just click on it to go into it, and then you open the Arch. You can also type just at the beginning front area, and you can type in anything that you want to get help with Fias in general. So in this case, I'll say, I'd like to build my own application. And so Fias responds like any other AI. But one of the things that's neat is once it's kind of gone through and asked you some questions, and you could kind of go back and forth, it actually gives suggestions. And so here you could click on the Arch Builder and get into it that way. And then finally, as you start building things with the Arch Builder, you'll have your Arch dashboard. And so the Arch dashboard shows arches that you've made, and then from there you can go into the Arch Builder as well. So it's pretty easy to get to, and wanted to again show some of the Fias system on how to get here to start. Okay, so then once you're in the Arch Builder, you can actually create an arch. So let me take people through how we do that. So you just click on the new arch button to get started. And there's three different ways you can create an arch. One is through a guided process. That one's a good way to create arches if you want to build something a little more complex. If you're newer to programming with AI, it asks questions and kind of guides you along the way. You could just build something with chat if you know specifically what you want. You just want to get something kind of quickly implemented. Or you could build arches with our plugin system. And the plugin system is really for more sophisticated arches. You can have your own Git controls, maintain your own code base, even have your own CI/CD process, have multi-team members working on it. And so the plugin system is for more sophisticated arches in general, if you really want to build a product and build a business around it. But it also is something that's not intimidating. I wouldn't be intimidated by the plugin system, and we have guides that will take you through and get you set up, to be able to use it. So it's still a very easy way to create applications. I'm going to do a separate video than this on the plugin system. In this video, I'll go through the chat and guided approach. So let me get started with the chat just to kind of show an example. So when you first start building an arch in the chat system, then you have a place where you can type. And so, I would like to build a simple calculator. So you just type in what you want, and then it'll build it over here on the right side. You can see the preview. And so the AI, let me build a clean functional calculator for you. And the more detail you put into your descriptions, the better usually. And you can give it, exactly your vision of what you're wanting to build. But, if you start with just something pretty broad, AI does a really good job of, inferring the best course of action. So as it's building, and I'll show some of these other features over here as well. So there's the preview panel where you can see applications as they're built. You can see the code itself as it's being created. You can see logs that are created, and the AI can use the logs to help debug and fix issues. And so, I said create a simple calculator, and it created one right off the bat. And then when it creates applications, you can interact with a working system. 7 plus 7 equals 14. You can bring in your own AI interactions. You can be able to link into other entities in our system, for example, to let you talk with other systems. You can have your own in-app purchases. You can have your own data storage. You could tie in with your own databases. There's quite a bit you can do with the plugins. And once you're ready to then publish it, you can hit the publish button. So let me kind of take people through a little bit more what the interface does. We have a undo and redo system. if it's having problems and you want to communicate with a more sophisticated AI, you could click the deep button, for example. And it's a little more expensive, but sometimes it's a little cheaper overall because you can solve problems more quickly. You could change between light and dark mode, for the whole platform, or the just the Arch itself. And then you can go in and actually configure what the published version of your Arch is going to be. And so let's call this basic calculator. Short description is a basic calculator. Simple, standard, basic calculator. Okay, you can decide if you want to have a price that somebody has to pay to use your Arch, or you could monetize through, for example, in-app purchases, like I mentioned before. You can change the appearance. So, if you go by the default, it uses the Fias theme, but there's a bunch of different themes that you can use. And you can even pick your own themes just by describing to the AI what you want it to look like. And then you choose an Arch icon. Let me actually generate with the AI. This is kind of a neat feature. So this is a calculator. So I'll start generating it. So this icon generator is itself a separate Arch. And this is a good indication or a good example of what we do with Fias as a whole. You can go through and figure out how to implement a system. You can implement a specific set of tasks. In this case, which AI to use for creating the model, and then the process to then layer an AI generated image on top of another AI generated image around a standard border, all of that. And so it actually creates, an icon that fits with the kind of standard AI. Or you could uncheck this and, build your own icon, or you could just load in an icon that you create separately. And then you could just say use as my Arch icon. And so it pops over to that Arch for creating the icon. Then when you come back, now it's set as the Arch icon, and this will be what users see when you publish your Arch. And then you can set some other parameters. Some of the ones we have initially are, is it listed or not? So you just want to use it yourself, or do you want to have it be available for other people to use? You can make Arches that don't have any cost. You can make those public access. And so if it's got AI in it, you can't make it public access, but if it's just like the calculator is, you have the option to make it where people don't have to be logged in order to see your Arch. And then you also can make it a full screen mode. And if you do that, then the Arch is not within the overall Fias background and Fias headers. And so you could, for example, make your own game and you have the full screen taken up with just your Arch. So once you've got it configured the way you want, then you can publish it. So when you publish it, you do kind of a final check, and then you publish. And the publishing process is pretty straightforward. It just packages everything up, submits it for review, and then an AI goes through and reviews it. And the AI makes sure there's no problems with it. Everything's proper and implemented correctly, nothing obscene in it, for example, that kind of thing. We want to protect the users as well. And then once you've done that, then you have a published Arch, and you can click the view button to go over and view it. And so now here we are in the Arch. Again, 5 times 9 equals 45. So we've got this working calculator. If you come into the Arch store, you can actually type calculator now, and it brings it up. And so as soon as you publish your Arch, it goes into the semantic search and people can find it. And so now let me go back over into the Arche Builder. And you can unpublish it if you want. So you can publish or unpublish. You can add it to your worktop. And so if you click this button, then it'll be in your worktop. Let me just do that. And so now if I go into my worktop, there's the basic calculator. And again, you can go into it. And then I'll unclick that again. This button here is a report. So if you're having problems with your Arch, sometimes there's things that the AI just can't do. Maybe there's a bug in the Arche Builder itself. And so if you create a report, then you can say how many of the last kind of iterations and exchanges you had with the AI. And then once you create that report, describe what went wrong, submit it. And then we get that report on the back end and we can help fix your Arch itself, or we could fix, a problem in the Arch Builder that maybe keeps it from, being able to implement what you want. And so that's all of those features. So yeah, that's the overall kind of Arch Builder, especially with the chat system. Okay, so now I'm going to explain how to build an Arch using the guided system. So you start a new Arch, and this time I'm going to click on guided instead of chat. So the guided system takes users through a series of steps that helps define the Arch. And it's good for defining a little bit more complex Arch or helping users that are kind of new to AI programming. So I built a Arch that goes through and helps to write patents. And one of the steps in it is to take bullet points and then organize them. And so I think there's a good, portion of that just makes for a good demo. So I'm going to start with just that. So I'm going to create a bullet point orderer. And this will show off some of the features of this guided mode. All right, so I pasted a prompt. I would like to make an Arch that takes a series of bullet points, analyzes them, and then reorders them into a structure that makes sense and breaks them into one or more categories. It should have 3 steps. First, the user should be able to input bullet points included as a list with new line separated items. Second, the AI should organize them into categories and put each item in a category. Then as a final step, it should show the user the organized list and allow the user to add new items that then also get added to the lists. So this is just kind of a demo. You don't really need a bullet point organizer on its own, but again, it could be a part of a bigger Arch. So the first step that the guided process does is goes through and just says, all right, what are some questions to kind of clarify what the design is? So, it goes through and asks these questions. For example, what kinds of bullet points will users typically be entering? So I'll just say any kind of bullet point. So you can answer the questions, or if you don't answer, anything you leave blank, the AI will come up with a good answer or its own good assumptions around. So just for kind of speed, I'm going to submit answers. So I put in that one answer, and then now it's going to be doing its own assumptions on the rest of the answers. And then the next phase you can see up here. So clarify was that phase. Now it's going to go to a plan phase. And the plan phase, it goes through and analyzes the overall goal and then creates a graph actually of what it's looking to create. So here's the graph. And so you could kind of zoom in. So you enter bullet points to start, does the AI categorization, and then review and expand. So this is a neat aspect of the Arch Builder in general, is having this graph. And if it's a much more complicated Arch, it can have a really sophisticated graph, and it'll go through and implement everything node by node. The second node is the AI classification. You can choose whether you want to use the a user interface for it or just have it run in the background. So we'll leave that checked. So now we approve and continue. So the next phase is going to be a review phase. And so it's going to go through and really kind of design out the overall design of the Arch given that plan that it is created. And then it's also going to come up with a number of assumptions. So one of the kind of neat concepts that I've found in AI is, when you put a little bit of information into kind of any AI system, a lot of information comes out. And so by definition, AI is making a lot of assumptions, a little in and a lot out, right? And so when you really kind of look at what those assumptions are, a lot of times you can find that, there's things that weren't true, that weren't what you wanted. And so given I found that trick really to be valuable in many areas of working with AI, I incorporated this step into the Arch Builder itself. So here's one assumption. The Arch has exactly 3 steps. Okay, so that's straightforward. Next, users can enter bullet points as freeform text, 1 item per line. So if you wanted to be able to enter a whole paragraph that's comma separated, for example, then you would just click here, make any changes on the assumption, and then adjust it, and it'll adjust its plan based on any corrections you make in any of the assumptions. So again, for speed, I'm gonna just approve all the assumptions as they are. Okay, so let me start building. I'll set up the shared infrastructure first, then build the input step. So now we're on the build step. And if you come over here again, the preview panel is going to show the preview once it started actually building it. And so we've got this graph. The graph has 3 nodes, and you'll notice down here there's 3 nodes. And if you click the auto button, it'll just go through all of the nodes at once. If you don't, then it'll just do them one at a time, and you can make sure each node as it's created, is created correctly. It's going through and adjusting the code in real time. So here in this preview step, then let me start building. I'll set up the shared infrastructure. So the reason it's doing that is it's kind of setting up the interactions between the various nodes. Then build the input steps, and then it's going to build the user interface for the the inputs for the bullet points. So I think what I'll do is go ahead and fast forward the video, just so people can kind of get through it a little quicker. But you'll be able to see the results in a moment. Okay, so that was about 20 seconds. It ended up, creating this first entry area, and you can enter your bullet points in here, and then you can tell it to organize with AI. So we've done the first step. Now I'm going to click next, the AI categorization. So it's going to go to the next step. And now you see this first bullet, is entered in solid. And then now we're working on the second one. Okay, so now it's kind of gone through and entered all of the details it needed to and all the implementation it needed to actually do the AI. And it says you can see an animated spinning icon, etc. So now we're ready for step 3. So we're on this second one. I hit next. And so now it's going to start building the final step where it shows the results. And now we've got 2 of the bullet points filled in. Okay, so now it's finished the final node and says the plugin is now fully built. It says it's got category cards. So we'll see that in a minute when we try it. And all of these steps, you can try them out as you're moving along through, or you could, just go to the end and check everything once it's all finished. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit next step there. And so that ends the build phase. And so all 3 steps are already built and verified, plugin's complete. And then that takes us to the refine phase. And so you can adjust things during the build phase. Or you can, now that it's finished, you can refine it. And so any problems that you have, you just interact back and forth with the AI, and you can get it to fix anything that needs fixing. So here we enter our bullet points. You can't click on the organize with AI, probably until you enter the bullet points. So I put bullet points. So sure enough, red, apple, blue, pear, dog, green, cat. Then I say organize with AI. So it gave this nice little kind of indicator that it was thinking. And now we've got the organized results: colors, red, blue, green, fruits, apple, pear, animals, dog, and cat. And it gives a little nice tip. Click the add button. So AI is just really good. Like it does kind of smart UI, UX types of things. You can copy everything. You can start over. So it built a nice little user interface for everything. And then let's go back to the start over again to kind of make the point. Let's say you wanted this sentence different. So you say, on the first page, remove in the first sentence the words --1 per line. So you enter that, and it'll go through and it'll figure out what you meant by on the first page. It'll figure out what the --1 per line is. Done. The phrase 1 per line has been removed. Now it's rebuilding paste or type your bullet points below. So I got rid of that little part of the sentence. And so you could make any kind of changes you want. Oh, it's actually got a nice little slider here that you can adjust the size. So again, with AI, it just does such a good job of building a nice user experience. So overall, that's it. You could then publish it, same as we did with the calculator Arch earlier. You come through and set all the configuration, create your own Arch icon. All of that I already went through, so won't go through that now. But That overall kind of describes how to build arches using the kind of first two methods. And again, I'm going to make another video on the plugin structure as well. And that'll be a little bit of a different kind of interaction. So thank you everybody for having a look, and love to see what everybody creates. Thank you.